We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cage My IQ. As always, I am your host, D-Bake, and as always, joining with me today is my co-host, Miles. How you doing, Miles?
Doing good. Not a bad week. Turns out I had a class unit that lasted 2 weeks instead of one, so I got it all done in the first week, so I was like, oh, I just got shows to watch this whole week. That's all I did. I just watched all my shows, man. It was great. Felt like a retiree.
I know, and of course this Saturday it was nice because UFC Fight Night came on at an early time today. It came on at, I believe it was 1:30 Eastern time, so it was around noon 12:30 your time.
Oh yeah, for the preview.
Yeah. And then it was done by 6:30 Eastern time, so it gave everybody a chance to watch them and then go out and do whatever they wanted to do for the rest of the night for a change. So that was a plus.
It was nice.
But as always, this is Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do preview and recap videos as well as interviews. And then we have over 120 subscribers right now, so we're shooting for 200. Plus, we have a news to tell you guys in the middle of the week around July 1st. So stay tuned around that time because we got a new business venture we got going on alongside this. So definitely check out them for that news. And then as always, we got 3 sponsors. The first one is 99 Jersey. Use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout to receive 20% off your next purchase. Just go to www.99jersey.com, put the promo code in, and get that 20% off your next purchase there. Then we got Oddsjam. All you got to do is go to the link in the bio of this video, click the link, sign up, and watch as you never lose a bet again. Oddsjam is a group where if you like to bet online, you go on there. They show you the different bets to choose from. You pick the best one that fits your purpose and watch as you never lose a bet again. So once again, go to the link in the bio, sign up, and enjoy not losing a bet again. And lastly, we got High Tide Herbal. Use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. This is a group of coaches and athletes who specialize in speedy recovery with the products that they have. All the products use CBD oil in it to help with speedy recovery. So go to www.hightideherbal.com, put in the promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout, and then get 10% off your next purchase. The first thing we're going to do today, as we did last week, is we're going to do a Miles Tough Enough recap for last Tuesday's episode of Tough Enough. So if you want to get into that and let everybody know what happened.
Yeah, so this episode was a lot of like backstory. It was a little bit more reminiscent of the kind of Ultimate Fighter episodes I remember watching way back in the day when I was watching Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey. That's around when I dropped off watching UFC, and then I kind of came back to it. But those episodes were like so much like drama and, you know, what was happening in the fighter house, and then Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey. Well, it was really Ronda Rousey getting really pissed off all the time and being kind of a bitch to her. But so far in this season, it's been like all business, you know, like, hey, these are the fighters. Here's a little bit about them. Here's them training. Cool. Let's watch them fight. This episode, the fight ended so fast, they had to fill it with something, you know, so they had a little bit more like fighter drama and stuff. So I'll kind of shoot through a little bit of that pretty quickly. There's not a whole lot to talk about because, like I said, the fight ended super fast. So this was a fight against Dustin Lampros from Team Volkanovski and Vince Murdoch from Team Ortega. And here's some of the takeaways of the non-fight stuff that happened this week. Ryder Newman is taking his loss in the last episode against Trayshawn pretty well, and he seems like a good dude. He's not like making a big fucking deal about it, and it doesn't seem to be like sitting with him mentally the way it was sitting with Raposo after his loss. So that bodes well for him, I think, in the future. Volkanovski had to kind of rally his team's morale because, you know, they're on a 3-fight losing streak, so everybody's kind of like, fuck. So he had to kind of get them out of that. There was a guest appearance by Michael Chiesa. He showed up and he worked with Team Volkanovski because apparently one of the guys in Team Volkanovski, Brady Highstand, I think is how you say that. It looks kind of Germany.
Yeah.
But he is a longtime training partner of Michael Chiesa's. And of course, Michael Chiesa is a former Ultimate Fighter winner. So that was kind of a big thing for the guys to see that. And he just kind of showed up and talked with Brady, worked with him on stuff, whatever they were drilling that day, which looked like ways to get to the back from a single leg, stuff like that. So he was just kind of talking to him and going, you know, you deserve to be here. You trained really hard. Don't let it get into your head, you know, that kind of stuff. And then Ortega showed up to the fighter house for a team dinner, kind of spent time with the fighters. Which is interesting because he really was only focusing on his fighters, like as a team. Whereas at the beginning of the season, like in episode 1 or 2, I forget, Volkanovski showed up to the house, but he fed everybody. Like he brought a big, you know, catered dinner and everybody sat down and ate and watched the Namajunas and Wei Li fight. So this one looked more like Ortega was just invested in, you know, bringing his morale to his guys, not really everybody. Lamprose struggled with the weight cut. Apparently it was around 12 pounds or so. He's a bit on the heavy side. So Volkanovski just helped him drop the weight. And there was a bit of like he's not going to make the weight. But like they made a big deal out of it because I guess they needed something to fill the hour because it was like less than half a pound. But of course he dropped it within the hour and it was fine. So no big deal. That was the non-fighting stuff. Now, in terms of what we learned about Murdoch and Lamprose, again, this was kind of their backstory that had stuff beyond just their training. So some of their training stuff was Murdoch was the far more experienced fighter in this matchup. He has a professional record of 12-4, so he's got 16 fights under his belt already. Lamprose has a 5-0 record, so he's undefeated, but he's still pretty green. Murdoch, you don't learn a great deal about his like training background. All you really hear is that he trains out of Team Alpha Male, which is Uriah Faber's camp. But that's pretty much it. Like you don't know much else other than what you see in the training montage with the Ortega and his coaches. So he's a striker primarily. He seems to have some background in grappling, whether that be some jiu-jitsu, some wrestling. He did mention at one point in the episode that it was a wrestling buddy of his who turned him on to MMA. So maybe, you know, he had like high school wrestling or something in his background. But he's definitely primarily a striker. Dustin Lamprose, we learned a little bit more about him, but he's also kind of vague. He talked about how he met Tyrone Woodley when he was young, and he trained with Tyrone Woodley during his amateur career. And this is around the time when Tyrone Woodley's own professional career started to take off in the UFC. So he encouraged Lamprose to start fighting full-time and all that. And now he trains out of Sanford MMA with Michael Chandler. He was one of the guys who was on the thing talking about how great Lamprose was. So that was pretty interesting. He's got a big guy in his corner. Now, the actual fight was over in less than 3 minutes in the first round. It ended super quick. Now, Lamprose went into this fight having a 5-inch reach advantage, and he was 3 years younger going into this fight. Not to mention Murdoch, during the backstory part of all this, he talked about having a brain disorder, which he did get treated, but I think it was the thing that prevented him from being able to use his contract to get into the UFC the first time. Like way back in the day, I checked. It wasn't for the Contender Series. They just offered him a contract. But when he was going through the medical screening, turns out he has moi moi, which is essentially when the arteries in the brain are all fucked up and they, I think they either swell closed or there's a bunch of blockages, and that's not good. So he got put off of that contract. He couldn't take advantage of it. So instead, he had to do a year of recovery, which involved like dieting and exercise. He did a lot of biking, apparently. So, he was already kind of behind the 8 ball. So he's 3 years younger, has a reach advantage and a recovering brain from all of that going into this fight. Still won, though. Still won. He knocked out Lampros. Now, the actual fight was pretty exciting. The what, like 2 minutes that it lasted, 2.5 minutes that it lasted. So it started out with Murdoch. You know, they were coming out, and he started to kind of pull ahead in the exchanges pretty early, even though that started out even. Lampros returned fire with some real heavy shots, and he did make Murdoch kind of back off a little bit, like he didn't like that. But then Murdoch came in and dropped Lampros with a 1-2 combination, and he immediately just got onto him. He was trying to take the back, and then when Lampros kind of went to his hands and feet and started moving towards the cage, he was just trying to kind of ground and pound from that position. But once Lampros got to the cage, Murdoch got the body lock, threw a huge knee to the head, and you saw Lampros's body just go limp right away. And even the referee is like, fuck, all right, that's it, stop, that's the end of the fight, that's it. But yeah, big knockout victory for Murdoch. And now Team Ortega has a winning streak of 4-0, completely undefeated right now. And it is bothering the fuck out of Volkanovski. You could tell there at the end, he was getting really bothered by that. And this is around, you know, the time in the season where the coaches start to kind of go after each other. But yeah, you could tell Volkanovski was bothered by it because he made this big deal about Ortega and his team being late because they were outside like doing fan service, like taking some selfies or some shit, like something that's not a big deal, but he made a big fucking deal about it anyway. But yeah, and then there was an argument between Michael Chiesa. Actually, he was there at the fighter selection for the next episode. He got into an argument with one of Ortega's coaches because I think he heard something that one of the coaches said, and he misconstrued it as like an attack on the fighters, which it didn't sound like that to me. It was something along the lines of like, he was talking to Ortega saying like, oh, maybe you should do something like that. Like, you know, do fan service or be nice to people, and maybe your team will stop losing. Like, it was directed towards Ortega, but then Michael Chiesa was like, oh, don't shit on the guys. You're such a dick. So there was a bit of drama there at the end. Some stuff to look out for next week is apparently Ortega's letting the victories get to his head. They put quite a bit of footage in there of him kind of being a dick and showing up at the fighter house and, you know, kind of bragging, oh, we're undefeated, we're 4-0, we're better than you, sort of thing. Which I imagine some of that, you know, it's got to be producer involvement, but, you know, some of it's probably real too. Yeah. The next fight they've got lined up was actually picked by Ortega. This one is going to be Brian Battle from Team Volkanovski versus Cameron Lechnov. That is the weirdest spelling of Cameron I've ever seen in my life. That's how you say it. But Lechnov, yeah, that should be it. That's from Team Ortega. Both of these guys were the last middleweight picks for their team. So this should be kind of interesting. Both guys definitely got something to prove. The size difference right away just kind of pops out at you because Brian Battle looks way bigger than Lechnov. Like, he probably stands a solid 3-4 inches over him, and I imagine his reach is something around there, maybe a little longer. So I don't know. Maybe this might be the guy who can get the first Team Volkanovski victory, because we always talk about how amateurs struggle with, you know, either A, a gas tank, or B, fighters with a lot of range on them. So that might be something to look out for next week. Other than that, one other interesting thing, they kind of showed the brackets right now, and it looks like your first middleweight and your first bantamweight fights are two Ortega fighters going against each other. Now, it's unclear now whether or not they're going to move that around if Team Volkanovski starts winning to make it so that they don't have to start, you know, moving fighters back and forth. But as it stands right now, it would be Petrosky versus Gore and Murdoch versus Ludwig, which I think I got my money on Petrosky and Murdoch, personally. I think those would be the two guys who would come out on top. Petrosky, I think, would beat Gore just because he blends his grappling with his striking really well. He's not technically proficient. He's powerful. Gore's got more technical proficiency, but Petrosky won early. He was the first guy who won, so he's had all this time to be training and refining. So I think he's got a better shot at it because I feel like Gore would be more lost on the ground trying to compete with a.
I won't lie. He's a local guy, so I'm going to root for him.
You have to vote for that guy.
Yeah. But we got some comments here. The first one is the question of tonight's show that I have right here is, Does Ciryl Gane deserve a title shot now? We'll get into that. We got a 2 cents saying sup champ, and then sup Miles.
Yo.
And then he said Ciryl Gane is the way and the truth.
Just pretty good. That's a good dude.
It is.
Good
we
dude.
got Noah saying sense fire, and then sup Noah from 2 cents, and then featherweight and bantamweight, it's been on lockdown for over a year, yet heavyweight get interim champ, get the fuck out. It is what it is, you know.
I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But
I will say this, not to go too much, but
situation.
That's what happens when you got a log jam in the division. You want to do anything you can to clear it, even if it's the wrong way to go about it, you know.
I think this was just a series of mistakes that just kind of added up, and now this is where we're at. It's like, sorry guys, too many fuck ups.
But let's break into the UFC Vegas 30 recap right here. The first fight that we got on here is a lightweight matchup that saw Renato Moicano defeat Jai Herbert by second round submission. In this matchup, Moicano moved to 15-4. 7-4 in UFC, and Jai Herbert fell to 10-3, 0-2 in UFC. What did you see in this matchup?
Man, this was a really good showing for Moicano. Moicano? Fuck, dude, these names.
Yeah.
I remember the weeks that had easy names to pronounce. I missed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Moicano. I think that's how you say it.
Yes.
So great showing for Moicano, and I think that's the most complicated name on this card. So thank goodness for that. He came out and he did what he had to do. You know, he used his striking or his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu to make up for his lack of striking against someone who is a way better striker. And the 2 rounds that this fight lasted pretty much went the same way. Like in the first, you had Moicano, you know, standing with Herbert. They were kind of trading a little bit, but then he just shot in. And once he was able to get that takedown, he pretty much just smothered Herbert. In the first round, it was almost the whole round. Like he got it in really early, that takedown, and just didn't let him breathe. Every time Herbert wanted to get back to the feet, Moicano was just on him, taking the back, going for like taking the legs out from under him, anything he could do to put that fight back where he wanted it on the ground. And unfortunately, Herbert just didn't have the background to be able to hang with him. Now, he was also at the beginning a lot more energetic, so he was doing the right things, even from like a basic standpoint. You know what I mean? Like he was controlling the hands, he was getting the hips up so that he couldn't, Moicano couldn't settle on him and go hip heavy. The stuff you're supposed to do to eventually get back to your feet. It was just Moicano just wouldn't let him breathe, and he only has so much energy. And after that first round, you know, man, he was spent. And unfortunately, he only really had one moment of success, and that was in the first round. About a minute and a half left, he was able to really, you know, throw some punishment on Moicano, and he looked good for about like 45 seconds, but then Moicano put him back on the ground and got them out right away, just controlled him for the rest of the round. And the second, man, Moicano took him down in 20 seconds. Like he just came out the gate immediately to the ground. Same story until the finish. But it was almost like a mercy killing when Moicano finally finished it via choke by rear naked choke, or submission by rear naked choke. But yeah, like I said, he did the game plan. He did what he needed to do. But given his performance, I got to say the lightweight division is sort of a very special division. It's stacked, and there's a ton of well-rounded fighters in there. And Moicano really only showed proficiency in 1 or 2 areas of MMA, which is the wrestling and the ground game. But his striking, he's not ready for some of the high caliber strikers we got in the lightweight division. Like it is so fucking competitive right now. So, I mean, he probably needs to keep training where he's at. Like right now, I think he's in the upper 20 range, somewhere in there. He was able to retain his spot because he was fighting down for this one. So maybe looking forward, give him someone like, I don't know, Drew Dober, I think is a good style matchup. Drew Dober only kind of knows the basics of groundwork, and that's how Makhachev put him away, even though he's not as good of a striker or a power striker. So that might be a good way to, get Moicano at least on the right track, because I think he would still need to improve his striking if he wanted to stand with Drew Dober like at all. So that might be a good one going forward. As far as Herbert's concerned, he's still green, 2 fights in the UFC, 2 losses. That's okay. You know, he's
Yeah.
still new. He's honestly, with that striking, he has some promise. He just needs to get his feet under him when it comes to the grappling stuff. I'm thinking maybe someone who is familiar with groundwork but doesn't choose to use it very much because stylistically they like to stand and trade a lot more. So maybe give him like Karma Worthy, because right now Herbert is still in like the 50s, Worthy is in like the upper 40s. It's a good style matchup that'd give him a little bit of a move up. I think he could beat Worthy. So I think that'd be a good confidence builder for him.
Yeah, first, before I get into mine, first you got Moicano, who had 61 strikes, 26 significant, 24 to the head, 1 body shot, 1 leg shot, 7 minutes and 35 seconds of control time, 5 or 7 takedowns, and then he had 1 submission attempt, of course. Then you got Herbert, who had 18 total strikes, 7 significant, 4 to the head, 0 to the body, 3 leg kicks, 8 seconds of control time, 0 takedowns, and 0 submission attempts. Before we got into this fight, Moicano must have listened to my preview show from Thursday, because when me and Jim were talking about it, I said the one big glaring weakness when he looked into both of those guys' tapes was Jai Herbert is horrible against the takedowns. His takedown defense is basically non and void. He just, I don't know what it is, but it's bad. And I was like, if Moicano can have the right coaches that tell him, because he has coaches that tell him to go use his wrestling, and then he has coaches that tell him to stand up and trade. Whenever he wrestles, he wins. Whenever he stands up and trades for majority of the fight, he loses. So he goes into here, and I'm like, he has to use his wrestling. The first thing he did was he went and used his wrestling, got him down, controlled him. I like the technique that he uses for the takedowns. He goes in for the takedown. He wraps his legs around. He wrapped his legs around Jai Herbert's one leg, and then kind of just sweeped him down. He used the same technique at each time, like it was going out of style. He was just using it over and over again, and Herbert just allowed it to happen.
All right.
And then he was able to just fluently go between guard on the ground. Like his ground game is really good. Like he knows how to not stay complacent, to keep moving. And whenever Herbert would try to get up, he'd go on his back. He'd get him back down. He moved to forward. He moved to side guard. He just kept on doing it. That's why a guy with really good hands like Herbert only had 18 total strikes. He was able to limit his game because he was on the ground for half the time. And then by the second round, you could tell that Herbert was getting tired. You could tell that all that weight of dealing with that was getting to him, and it allowed a moment in time for Moicano to get the back and get the choke for the submission. And then I thought it was perfect. They interviewed Moicano after the fight, and he even said, for a while, I fell in love with the boxing part of the game. I fell in love with it when I shouldn't. I need to stick to what I'm good at, which is wrestling and my ground game, and because that's what he's been winning with. So let's hope that he continues to do that. I hope he still improves everything else. He improves his striking, because some of the striking with him standing up looked good, but go with what you're best at and then improve everything as you go. Right. Because I think maybe it was good that he kind of fell in love with the boxing and then got beat, because then it really solidified to him, I'm a wrestler and a grappler. That's what I'm good at. And I do need to improve my hands. But it was good that he did that, because then he realized, instead of doing things and not knowing, and then before it's too late, because he's 7-4 in the UFC, so he showed that he can win fights, but now he knows how he's winning fights and how he's losing them. So now he can go back to the drawing board with this win and be like, okay, wrestling's my go-to now. Now all my game plans have to be focused on doing that, and I think he has the techniques to move up. Just like you said, there's he's in the 20s range. So I don't think he should be shooting for the moon right now, 10. Maybe if he's 23, 24, maybe shoot for 15 to 18 now. See what he can get in that range. And
let me see this. Hold on. I can tell you right around roughly where he is, because I know he's kind of up there, but
Yeah.
he's definitely got some room in the 20s to keep going. And I mean, even if you start entering the bottom 15, there's only a couple of guys where I'm like, yeah, but if he gets past that guy, then what? That's one fight. That's not enough time or experience. Like, let's say he goes against, I don't know, Thiago Moises is busy. So Armin, holy shit, I can't say that last name. Number 15 spot. Let's say he beats that guy, right? Well, who's he got next? Maybe Brad Riddle. I think Brad Riddle's too durable. I think his takedown defense is there. So that's not going to be a good stylistic matchup. And then you got Diego Ferreira and Gregor Gillespie above that. Like, dude, get the fuck out of here. There's no way, guy. So
that's why he has time. He has time to work with what he has.
That's why I think he needs to kind of bounce around where he's at. I'm trying to find him, but I'm having trouble pinning him down. I know he was, because Jai Herbert is sitting right around, I think like 50s. Yeah, like low 50s. So he should be not that much higher.
Yeah,
I'll let you know if I find it.
Jai Herbert has the skills. He has the skills to stand up. He's big. He's big. Like frame rise, and then his boxing's extraordinary. But if he can't defend the takedown, he's not going to be able to use it. Like it's like
upper 20s.
It's like Herbert's like this up here and striking, but then he's down here.
And, he's like Adesanya, like straight up.
But Adesanya can at least defend some stuff against the cage and whatnot. Anytime somebody shoots for a takedown, Herbert's going to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's really not good at that.
No,
like
it's bad. Like, like you think he would have used his range, and then the counter star go stop, but he couldn't do anything.
Anything would have been great, but
I was just waiting for it, and then Moicano was like, this is the fight where I'm just gonna not worry about striking. Like I'm gonna wake up, everybody's betting against me because they're expecting me to stand up and trade. And then the lucky few that think I'm going to wrestle, which is me, went his way.
Yeah, it's like he was going on the Conor McGregor model, like trying to do it that way. But that Conor McGregor came up in a very different landscape than what you got here. So that's not really possible anymore, man.
But props to Moicano for getting the victory. We'll see where it goes moving forward. But let's move on to the second fight now on the card, which was a welterweight matchup, which pitted Tim Means against Nicolas Dalby, in which Tim Means won by unanimous decision. Tim Means moved to 32-12-1 with 1 no contest, 14-9 and 1 no contest in the UFC, and Nicolas Dalby fell to 19-4 with 2 no contests and 3-3 with 1 no contest in the UFC. What did you see in this matchup?
Now, this was a pretty good showing for Tim Means, especially all that wrestling he showcased. That was actually pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. He's usually more of like a boxer. He's got like 22 knockouts, something like that. So this was unexpected from him, and especially the degree to which he blended the wrestling with his striking. It was very good. At the same time, you could also tell during this fight he was kind of showing his age a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, he's a hard 37 now. Like, he's getting up there. He's definitely kind of getting worn out from all these really heavy, back and forth striking matches he's lived through. But no, the first round, I basically had all the rounds going to Means, except for the third. You could make an argument that even though Means definitely had way more control time against the cage, there's no question, Dalby did inflict a little bit more damage there at the beginning of the round when he wobbled Means. I think he wobbled him twice, actually.
Yes.
And you could give him the round for that. But in terms of like control time and the numbers, Means definitely stayed in control of that whole round and just kept him wrestling when he didn't want to. But at the same time, wrestling isn't even really submission attempts. He didn't really even try too hard for a lot of the takedown attempts. He just kind of pinned him up against the cage and worked. But the first 2 rounds, no question. Like, Means in the first started out really aggressive with the striking. And so did Dalby. Dalby came out guns blazing, but man, when Means returned fire, some of those fucking shots were like, God damn. And then he did that lateral drop that nobody fucking saw coming. Even the commentators, like DC was like, what the fuck? Like, that was nuts. But definitely a high point in that round was that lateral drop, and then just control Dalby in the top side and the side control pressure. And he was really good with the transitions, too. Did you notice that? His transitions were solid. Like that looked like a jiu-jitsu practitioner.
And a big thing. Every time Dalby started to get something going, even with that one big shot in the third where he had Means reeling, Means would just go up, hug Dalby, and stop it, because then Dalby couldn't get pushed off to kind of get that knockout shot, because he knew he needed it.
Yeah.
So, and it Means with his IQ knew that this guy needs to push off on me to land stuff on me. So if I just get close to him and kind of hug him, he's not going to be able to knock me out. He's going to wind up winning the round, but then losing the fight 2-1 by that time. So his IQ in this fight was like top notch.
Good, yeah, it was solid. And he had some really good moments too. Besides the lateral throw, he had that 1-2 combination, the first that dropped Dalby, and that pretty much secured him that round, no question. Yeah. And then in the second, there was another one, which for the second, he was mostly working the striking and the clinch exchanges really, really well. And Dalby had like some time after the first minute where he looked kind of good, but again, Means put him up against the cage, slowed him down, worked him over with those knees and elbows. And then once he had kind of built up some steam, Dalby tried to shut him down with the striking. He was coming on with some heat, but as soon as, Means got uncomfortable, just right back to the wrestling. It was very well put together. Yeah. And I think he also dropped him. Yeah, he dropped him at the end of the round. And with a leg kick, funny enough, it was a combination off of a couple of shots. And with that leg kick, Dalby's leg just fell out from under him and then put him in side control. And that was it for that round. But yeah, the third round was arguably the one where Dalby inflicted damage. So technically he got the round, but all Means had to do was make it to the bell. And he knew that. So he was like, fuck it.
I wish I would have seen more combinations from Dalby in the first 2 rounds. He did a lot of combinations in the third, but in the first 2 rounds, you didn't see enough of them. That would have made it a little bit more interesting and in his favor had he have done them earlier on. Because when he was doing the combinations, it was working in his favor. Like he would hit him with a kick, then throw a strike at him, and then Means wouldn't expect it. But when he was just doing one-offs, like a kick here, like a punch there, it was just like Means like had his way with it. Yeah. And it wasn't until like the third, like I said, with the combinations, that's when Dalby really got going. He really got into a groove. I thought had he had done that from the start of the fight, this fight would have been totally different moving forward. It might have still been competitive, but I thought maybe he could have snuck another round in and would have won 2-1 instead of lost to 1-2.
Yeah, but I think Dalby just didn't have the ability to adapt. I think that's what it was. Because like first round, Dalby was trying to find his measure and feel it out, right? Second round, then he's trying to problem solve and adapt, but he couldn't. Yeah. He was like, fuck, every time I try to get started, I just get shot the fuck down. So it's kind of like Noah was saying in the comments, like once they're down 2 rounds and they turned it on. Well, it's like that's all he had. He was like, fuck, all I can do is what I'm doing, just harder. That's it. That's all I got.
And the funniest part of the fight was when Paul Felder was like, I hope like he didn't say he hope he wins, but he was basically thinking, I hope Dalby wins so I can ask him why he's breathing the way he does.
Yeah. It was fucking weird.
But he was doing it from the start. And then DC's like, yeah, but he looks like he's getting like smoother and smoother as the round goes. He's not even getting tired. So it must be a thing that he practices from the start of the fight to the end of the fight to keep him in a certain way. Because it's very odd, but it looked like it worked because he didn't look tired at all. It just, like you said, he was assessing, then he was confused, and then he was like, okay, now I got to go guns blazing round 3. I got to put it together, not think. And then that's when he had the most success, was when he was just letting things flow. And maybe we'll have to look into that afterwards. But like you said, the wrestling from Tim Means was unexpected. I didn't expect him to do that, especially with how he did. It added that little, I guess, uncertainty to Dalby where he had to think about that. And then he went to like system overload until like the third round. But more power to Tim Means for getting this victory. Like I thought he might not win. But he had a very good showing in this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the breathing thing, I think that might be an oxygenation sort of thing where like if you're breathing heavier, you're taking in more oxygen and you're just expelling all the air that's already being deoxygenated in your lungs faster. So
Yeah.
maybe it has something to do with that. But I mean, I'm surprised he didn't hyperventilate. Like, fuck, he did it for so long and it was so loud.
Yep.
But I guess, breathing techniques, which those are proven to have like therapeutic effects depending on how you use them. So it might just be a thing I haven't heard of yet, but it was very, very odd for sure. I'd have to look in more into that.
What do you think what do you think should be next for Tim Means?
Man, I like Tim Means, and he's a veteran fighter, but like I said, he's a hard 37, and you could tell in this fight, like, man, some of those shots he didn't recover the way he used to. Like when he got wobbled twice in the third, normally like 10 years ago, he would have taken that like, it's fine. Like it wouldn't have bothered him, but he's starting to wear his age a little bit. I know he called out a top 10 fighter, but I don't think that's really a good idea. We're talking about.
I must have missed that. Who did he call out?
He just said anybody in the top 10. Okay. But then he also said, well, at this point, the fights pay the bills, so fuck it. So he was also recognizing the fact that, like, welterweight division's getting pretty competitive. So I might, if I want a top 10 fight, I might wait a while. So fucking give me anything. But I honestly think, he's got the experience and he's got the know-how and the fight IQ to really close out a very successful career if he just kind of keeps bouncing around the upper 20s for a while. Like, give him a fight with Robbie Lawler or Alex Morano. Give him one of those guys because they like to stand and trade. They like to stand and bang. And, that's his bread and butter. And with Robbie Lawler, who's also a grappler, we're now seeing a side of Tim Means who can grapple. And that would be kind of an interesting matchup. Both guys are aging out. But
now here's the name because this would be out of the ordinary because they keep feeding this guy to youngins, but Tim Means and Ponzinibbio.
That was my second pick. If they were going to start approaching a top 10, I would be like, start with Ponzinibbio, see how he does.
Yeah.
And if he does that, we could talk about Jeff Neal because he's been on a losing streak and Jeff Neal has like really no grappling ability at all. He likes to stand and trade.
Did they find an opponent for Sean Brady yet? Because I know Kevin Lee.
I believe they did. Oh, did Kevin Lee pull out?
Yeah, injury. Some sort of injury is what I heard today, which sucks because I was looking forward to that fight so much.
Take a look. Kevin Lee. No, it looks like since he pulled out, he's still free right now. I guess they haven't booked anything for him yet. Not that I can find anyway.
Because maybe feed him to. Well, no, that'd be too soon. That's next week. But yeah, Ponzinibbio. I like Ponzinibbio or Salkov, one of those two.
Salkov. I don't remember Salkov.
He's ranked number 15, Muslim Salkov.
Oh, that's why he's one of those guys that kind of bumped up. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I'd never heard the name. Kevin Lee pitched out.
Yep. I was just about to put it out. Yep. And, he was gonna get beat anyway, so
is he just gonna stay in his division or like
Kevin Lee's
that's right, injury. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So he might still move up then. Okay.
Yeah, he's still gonna move up, but it'd be interesting to see. But I would like to see Tim Means and Ponzinibbio, two older guys up there, fight each other, see how it goes.
They can both scrap pretty well too. Yeah. They could throw it down.
It'll make for unexpected like fight of the night type of feel with those two guys with the polishedness of them.
Yeah.
But let's move from that fight to the third fight on the card, which sucks that it ended the way it did.
Yeah.
The men's featherweight matchup that saw Andre Fili and Daniel Pineda fight to a no contest. Like right here. As you see here, Daniel Pineda was poked in the eye, and then he wound up. And the fight had to be called because he couldn't continue. Yeah. But up until that point, what did you see with this matchup?
This was all Fili, man. This was all Fili, which sucks that they had to end the fight the way they did because, I mean, he had a really strong showing. He came out from the first bell, setting up his combinations from behind his jab because he knew he had the range advantage, and he wobbled Pineda like really early in the round, like in big ways too. Like he almost fell the fuck over. That was almost a drop. He was wobbled so bad. And really the only way Pineda could stay in the fight was to force wrestling situations. But the times he did it, he just didn't do anything with it. He just tried to pin Fili up against the cage and just try to wait it out. But like, man, he was getting his shit handed to him. Like, it was really bad. And then when it got back to the striking range, of course, Fili went right back to working that jab, using the reach advantage, and, setting up those big combinations, particularly that one huge head kick, rather, and the big hook to the face that just, that hurt so bad. And it set up that huge suplex throw. That was nuts. That he definitely got the first, no question. Just in terms of damage, in terms of showmanship, and he got like the one takedown in the round. So there's no way you can argue Pineda got that round. And he even let Pineda back up to try to beat on him some more. And he got hurt. He got hurt a little on that calf kick. It made him switch his stance late in the first. But again, he dropped Pineda again towards the end of that round with a body kick and lots of ground and pound. So that was pretty cool. And then the second round, we didn't get that deep into it. Both guys were kind of going back and forth, exchanging heavy punches. I'd say Fili was, definitely taking the lead on a lot of those exchanges. And then the eye poke happened in about 40 seconds. So we didn't see too much after that. Like, it just like that quick wrap up. So
I thought it would have been more the same.
Fili looked really good right now.
I thought more the same. It would have been Andre.
You're on mute. I can't hear you. Either I can't hear you or something's wrong on my end.
Yeah, can you hear me now? But to me, I thought it was more the same.
I can't hear you. It might be me. Hold on.
But I'll continue with the comments while we get him fixed out.
I got you.
Okay. But
it was me.
It's all good. We got Noah. Fili beat his ass.
Mm-hmm.
He said Fili and Kennedy core on DraftKings didn't work out for me. Both should have won by KO and got 60 combined points. That sucks though, because with the combined with the Fili looked good. Mm-hmm. And I thought he could have gotten a knockout, at some point. But then, of course, the eye poke. And then Kennedy, that was the case of him letting I can't help it, but I can hear both of y'all for what it's worth. That's good.
It was just my end.
Yeah. But with Kennedy, it was the backpack in the first round that killed everything. Like, it was just standing there going like this. And it kind of worked out for him, because by the third round, what's his name? Who's he fighting? The guy's that was fighting Kennedy and Chachu.
Kennedy and Chachu was fighting Daniela and
Marquez. Marquez got so tired by the third round that Kennedy in the start of the third was able to just tear up on him and knock him out. So at least you got like a knockout of it, but it sucks that with the Andre Fili thing that it hurt you that with the eye poke, because he should have had more points, 30 points for the win there and whatnot. And then there was a good cost for him. So that's what sucks with that one. I got lucky going with Moicano, who was kind of cheap, and he wound up getting the second round submission against Herbert. Everybody was picking Herbert too, so I went with the guy that everybody was going against. But he also said, I thought Kennedy was going to KO him inside 60. Everybody knew Danilo was going to shoot for a takedown. I had him for the first round too, but he did get a third round one. So he did get one. He just should have gotten it earlier, but he allowed Marquez to shoot in early and then get that stupid backpack on him, because that's all he did. He chilled on him and didn't do anything. So it was like, Kennedy didn't lose anything because he didn't have to defend anything.
Right.
It was just all it did was it killed time. That's all it did for like a round and a half. But just to end talks with this one, because I won't go too much, because you said basically a lot of what I would have said, and then it ended with the eye poke. Was Fili was more the aggressor. It wasn't until I think round 2 when Pineda started using those leg kicks that he started getting going on his end. Like his leg kicks are vicious. It's just that he doesn't. I don't think he uses them enough as he should, because they're like every time he kicked them, Fili was getting hurt. But then he would just go away from him for a little bit while, then come back randomly. It's like, use those more. You got these guys. you got these guys that use leg kicks 40, 50 times, and I think he only had 5 leg kicks. He should be using them in the 20s, because when he uses them, like, he gets gun happy with his power hands, which he shouldn't. Use your legs, and then change things up with your hands, not the other way around.
Right.
Your legs are your weapon, and I think he doesn't realize that yet with how good his legs are.
He's like Kevin Gastelum, but with leg kicks instead of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem.
That's exactly because whenever he got the legs going, he was winning those exchanges. Right. And then he has a big frame on the bottom, so that's what makes it even better because they're fast and there's a lot of frame to his legs. So with how quick they are, it's like Jose Aldo-esque, but bigger. But then Aldo would use them all the time, and he had more torque. This guy just like he puts a hurting on you. I think he hit him twice, and Andre Fili started to walk weird after he hit him twice with leg kicks in round 2.
He switched his stance in the first round, like he was hurt. He was like, "Oh, yeah. I don't want none of that."
he was walking weird, and then of course because he didn't go back to him, it allowed Andre Fili to get back going, get his confidence back from getting hit with those, and then get his game going, and then of course the unfortunate eye poke, which I'm not gonna say it's like they could have went on, but as you saw his eye, like I'm not gonna say no. It's just unfortunate for Andre Fili because he was gonna win that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ref made the right call because here's the thing. They were saying like it's 5 minutes for the ref to make the call as to whether or not the fight continues. And at the beginning, they're like, "Oh, he called it too early." I was like, "Did you see his eye? He couldn't even tell you how many fucking fingers were up." And over 5 minutes, that swelling,
there you go.
That swelling doesn't get better over 5 minutes. It gets worse. Like it's gonna puff up a lot. It's gonna take a couple of hours for that shit to start going down. So. Yeah, if he can't see out of that eye, it's like, don't let him keep fighting. I know he wants to, but don't fucking do it.
He said, "Man, I knew Fili was a lock too. Bad Aljo changed MMA." it sucks. Like a lot of that's been happening since then. It's just unfortunate, and hopefully he can get back from that because now that you kind of lose a little bit of confidence, even though you're winning, because you knew that you could win that fight, and then you had a small mistake there that cost you. Like he didn't lose, but then you didn't win. It's just that weird stuck in limbo situation that was put in.
You know, it'd be fucking cool to see though, since he's not technically winning, so it'd be weird for him to fight up. They'll probably make him fight down because of where he's at. He's like right above the 20s, like not quite 15 yet, but probably somewhere in that range. But I think it'd be really cool to see him fight Sungwoo Choi, who just put away fucking Rosa. That'd be dope, right? Yes. Because they're super close. Like Choi is like in those upper 20s, so that's not a big guy for him.
And that's my guy right there. That's my guy. I was like, I want to see him fight somebody because like he would make for that would be a banger.
Yeah, they stand and fucking trade. They would just fucking brawl. It'd be great.
For some reason, I think they would make that like the prelim main event, like the main event on the prelim. Right. But that'd be the fight that they'd be talking about right there because they'd be going at it.
Oh yeah.
But let's move on from that. Don't want to spend too much time on that because of the no contest. Let's move to the fourth fight in the card. We have a men's bantamweight matchup, which wound up later on in the fight turned into something good, where we saw Timur Valiev defeat Raoni Barcelos by majority decision.
I'm not saying that first name. There's no way.
Like I thought it was Raoni, but then they're pronouncing it as Raoni the whole time. So that's what I'm going to say, Raoni. And by majority decision, Valiev moved to 18-2 with 1 no contest, 2-0 with 1 no contest in the UFC. And Barcelos fell to 16-2, 5-1 in the UFC. What did you see in this matchup?
You know, this was a good showing for Valiev. I think that's how you say that.
Yes.
So he's also a native of Dagestan, Russia. So his training is more than likely somehow connected with Khabib, at least during the off-season training.
And it's a cool little note that they made after that. They were talking about that. I'll get to in a second.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. Because I know he did his training camp for this fight with Frankie Edgar, and they were talking about that. He looked great. Yeah, he looked really good. So I guess he trains here in the States for training camps, but I imagine when he's not like booked for a fight, he's training in Dagestan, which I know Khabib is just sort of taken over Russia and all the surrounding areas with his, MMA gyms and working very closely with a lot of fighters out in that way. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I had this one 2-1 Valiev. I gave him the first and the third. I gave Barcelos the second for pretty obvious reasons. Now, this, while it was, I guess, a good match, it was kind of a predictable one. I guess not predictable, but it was very one note. You know what I mean? There wasn't a whole lot of variety in what was going on. Like, for the first round, it was pretty boring. They were just feeling each other out for the first minute and a half, like nothing was happening. But Valiev was at least putting out some degree of volume. You know, he's just throwing out those punches and kicks. And I don't know what fucking Barcelos, I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but he was just like sleeping or some shit because he had like no volume. But and then in the second minute or so, they started getting a little bit more aggressive, and it was fairly even exchanges. And there was like some wrestling that didn't go anywhere. But I think it was because Valiev put out the volume early in the round that, you know, you gave it to Valiev in the first.
Yeah.
The second wasn't too different. Barcelos was a little more active at the beginning. And even though it seemed like both fighters were pretty even most of the time in terms of strikes landed, it looked like a lot of the exchanges were favoring Valiev because he was just putting in more volume. And just by virtue of putting in the shots and working, he landed some big shots just sometimes by fucking chance. You know what I mean? Sometimes they just landed. But and then Barcelos found a little success, and I think this is why he got the second. That big hook and the uppercut that dropped Valiev twice and nearly ended the whole fucking thing. Like, that was a big moment. That was solid work on his part.
Even the judges were saying, "How's this guy keep going?" Like,
right?
that would have finished a lot. And then he just did enough just to stay alive.
Yeah. And sometimes that's all you need, honestly, because then he came back in the third and he took it because, one, I think Valiev was a little bit more he was definitely still feeling it. And I think Barcelos was gassed. He put out a ton of energy doing all that and didn't finish. So he's like, fuck, now I'm tired. So for the beginning of the round, Barcelos was a little bit more gassed and Valiev was timid, but Valiev was like, fuck it, let's just go. It's the third round. We need to fucking, lay into each other. So he started, again, putting out the volume. He landed some heavy blows and he pulled ahead in the numbers and took the third. So, I mean, sometimes all you need to do to win is just survive a round and then just come out strong in the final moments of that fight. And that's how you win, but a very good show. And I think for Valiev, even though not a lot of variety in the activity, there was not much wrestling that was interesting, not really any ground game that was significant.
Well, I get that as like a hats off to Barcelos because his takedown defense was excellent every time. Every time Timur Valiev went in for a takedown, he would just get in the right position and stuff it, because usually his takedowns are really good. And like I said before, with the little tidbit, like you said, he lives with Frankie Edgar for the last half of training camp. He does, like you said, he does the first half of training camp in Dagestan, and then for the second half, right before the fight, he goes to Toms River, New Jersey, like an hour north of me. And then he lives with Frankie Edgar.
Why aren't you training, son? It's an hour.
I know. I need to go up there, man. I need to go up there. Get out of my cage, but and then he stays there and he trains with them at that gym up there. And then he's been known to usually work with Sabit. Up there in Dagestan for the first half, he worked with Zabit.
One of the Nurmagomedov brothers.
Yeah.
No.
I can't say his last name. Sabit.
Oh fuck.
He was supposed to fight Yair Rodriguez 3 times, and then he got canceled out, and then he's been going through something injury wise.
Oh, Sadiq Youssef?
No, Sabit.
Okay. Oh, Sabit. Oh shit. Dude.
Yes,
I'm looking for it. I don't know if I'm gonna find that.
He's a featherweight. Yeah, he's a featherweight. He was as high as 3 ranking before they took him off because he's been inactive for so long. But he trains with Frankie Edgar and Edgar all the time. The coach Mark Henry raves about him because he has because of his volume, and that's what he showed. I was like, this was the battle of volume against power in this, because Barcelos was like you said, he seemed kind of timid and then he'll come in at weird times with his power, and then he connect in his second. But like that's the type of fight in a 3-round fight where it's like you got a guy that can finish you at any time, but if you let the guy with volume get going, he's gonna sneak out rounds. He snuck out round 1 because of volume, and then he was winning round 2 before I think Barcelos kind of snuck it out with the power shot that almost ended him. Yeah. So he got that with 10-9, and then in round 3 he was back to volume. He was laying so much volume, and then just going for takedowns just to like make him think about something, and then he go back to volume, hit him. And just like you look on here, even though Barcelos had more total strikes with them, it was kind of misleading because he did a lot of that in that round 2 towards the end where he was trying to finish him. He put a lot into that. Other than that, the first, like, he didn't do that much in the first. So the output there is kind of misleading. That's why you look at this, you're like, he won with volume, but he didn't have enough total strikes. It's because round 1, Barcelos did nothing. He basically did nothing. and then round 2, he did a lot. And then round 3, he didn't do enough. It was like Valiev did a little bit more than he did. So it's like, that's why it was 2-1, Valiev. And he didn't even have to use the wrestling because he got stuffed. So he was able to do it with the volume. Usually his wrestling is good, but that's why I said hats off to Barcelos in this matchup because he was able to limit Valiev to just the volume striking. It's just that it wasn't enough because Barcelos wasn't aggressive. He was too passive for the majority of the fight.
Yeah, man, that's another good comment we got, or a good point they brought up in the comments is, man, Valiev just fucking weaponized his cardio in this matchup. Like he was moving, and like not even just throwing volume, but like the amount of movement he had in the feet, the upper body movement, it never really faded significantly because he kept that head moving. He kept his body kind of slipping in that motion, which, if you know anything about boxing, most of the time you luck into a lot of slips and dodges. Like, unless you're really fucking good, like you're supposed to just kind of keep your body moving. You're like, oh, good, a punch is coming. I got it on the right beat, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he did a really good job of that. I think it came out in the numbers, you know?
Yeah, it was good though. And then, of course, Timur Valiev moves on with the victory, and Barcelos has to go back. I think his camp should be like, okay, we could have had that if you're more aggressive outside of it. Like, I don't know how Timur survived there. Jeez, God damn.
I mean, it seemed like he just wasn't listening to his coaches because his coaches were like, "You need to get in there, go first."
Yeah.
But like,
and then he connected with that one, and then that's when he went in. But it's like you can't, like in that situation, you can't rely on that. You're going up against a guy that's putting in volume. You got to make sure that you're either going to finish him or you got to make sure if you don't that you're winning the other rounds, because this guy was just boom, 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 in, out, shooting, come back. I'm getting the volume in and then sneaking out. He was like a thief in the night. That's all I can say. A thief in the night. He snuck away with the victory.
Stole rounds.
Yeah, stole rounds 1 and 3, and out of the clutches of evil.
I mean, damn, man. But at the same time, like, I don't know. He said he wants a top 10 or top 15 matchup. There's some guys I don't know if he could stand with in the top 15, like Riviera and Vera. I think that would be tough. Both of those guys I think would be too tough for him right now. Divishvili I think would kind of cancel out the grappling, but I mean,
I could see him do Cody Stamen, or
I was going to say Stamen, yeah,
or Vera. Like Phillips was supposed to fight the Sunsao, and Sunsao backed out, so now Phillips is facing Ralian Paiva, who we saw a few weeks ago. So I could see Stamen. Like I said, I could see Vera just because Vera is more of a stand-up guy. But he's got that ground ability though. Like he hides it, but he's got it. He's got a background for it. So I don't know. I feel like that would cancel out. You know, I'd just be interested to see how you do defending the takedown against Valiev. How he would defend it, because if he could defend it and make it a lot interesting, because Vera has that power, but then then Valiev has he has the volume. So it'd be kind of like a them playing chess against each other. Like who could do what at what time. But I would see if not that, then definitely Cody Stamann.
I think Staman's a good start. Yeah. Like, see how he does there, and then move him up based on that. I mean, if he gets through Stamann, then maybe give him Vera, or I don't know. Like I said, Divish Valley, I think, would cancel out his style too much. Same thing with Dominic Cruz and Dominic Cruz's range on him. Maybe a Sun Sao. I think Riviera would be just too well. Riviera's pretty active. Maybe that's a good matchup. I was going to say, because I mean, Riviera's got the ground, but he also tends to keep a very high pace. So maybe that would be an interesting matchup to see, kind of who breaks first in that one.
Yep, but let's move on to the main and the co-main event of the evening. This one had a little bit of controversy in it, I would say.
This is so dumb.
A little bit of controversy that they're trying to make a big deal out of. You had a heavyweight matchup between Tanner Boser, who defeated Ovince St. Preux by second round TKO, in which Tanner Boser moved to 28-1, 4-3 in the UFC, and Ovince St. Preux fell to 25-16, 13-11 in the UFC. What did you see in this matchup?
This was a fucking blowout. This is so fucking stupid. Oh my God. Which, by the way, as a side note, that block you're showing in the picture doesn't fucking work. Don't use it. Don't be dumb. Of course that doesn't work. All it does is it smashes your face, your hand into your face.
Why do you think I picked this picture?
Right. That was literally the move before he got dropped. That was the image right before he fucking ate that big shot. But I mean, this was all Boser from beginning to end. The first round was just Boser beating him up for 5 minutes. Cause like, what was OSP doing? He was just standing there getting hit and going, all right, I'm going to get him on the next one. But the response never fucking came, man. This just was such a fucking waste of time because OSP wasn't doing anything.
Yeah. Here's a good comment right here before you get going. NG, I thought Boser.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah. NGL. I thought Boser grabbed the fence rear time, but after rewatch, he didn't. Good job to the ref for not ruining it.
Yeah, no, I actually caught that one in real time when they were showing not the slow-mo replay, but the one where they like isolated that like 2 seconds or whatever. I was like, I didn't grab the cage. What the fuck are you talking about?
Like he had his hand up and it looks like he grabbed it, but he didn't really push off. He grabbed it, he missed, and then he kind of got up himself.
Well,
so it was like,
the way I saw it, he actually had his hand facing away from the cage, and you saw him close it into a fist. But I think what threw them off is that he turned the fist and kind of placed it on the cage, and it kind of looked like he was holding on to a link or two. But then you see his hand like slide down the cage, and then he actually removes his hand, still balled up in a fist, and then puts it on OSP's back. So you're like, oh, he never had anything to begin with. Otherwise, he would have had to open his hand in order to let go of the cage, but he didn't. So like, it was a pretty clear case of, in the moment with all the things going on, it might look that way. Cause he did kind of like, what he did is he put his hand on the mat and shrimped his hips out. So it kind of looked like he was pulling himself up, but he was really pushing back, which they look similar, I guess, if you aren't paying attention.
Yeah. But the big thing with this fight here is just the inactivity of Ovince St. Preux.
Holy shit.
like David said, like for the first few minutes, he didn't do anything. Like the coaches were telling him, get going, get active, and he wasn't doing it. And then, like I said in the preview, Boser's a type of guy. He's pretty quick with the boxing, and he's going to try and get going. And what's even more prevalent in this is he didn't have a training camp for this. He even said he didn't train. He literally fought 2-3 weeks ago in which a fight that people thought that he won. You could have went either way with the fight. And then he comes in, he was like, yeah, I didn't train. I haven't trained for over a month. I need to get back to training. Right. It's crazy because I'm like, that he could have picked a better fight to put in this place to be like his kind of like his do or die matchup than a guy like Ovince St. Preux in this matchup who basically was inactive and has a glass chin. I said that the whole time. Right. I was like, he has a glass chin. He's going to lose. He's going to get knocked out. And what happened? Just after that picture where the grabbed cage situation, Boser gets up, hits him with a knee to the head, stuns him, and then just hits him once with a punch. He fell down, and he goes to punch him again, and the ref was like, Enough.
That
He's done.
was it.
This is a guy that had so much like potential, and then I feel like it just went away.
What happened? He just
I don't know.
flopped. Like Jamal Hill also pieced him up real bad. But like, I don't know, man. At the beginning, OSP, like, what was the statistic? There's only been 6 Von Flue chokes in UFC history. He has 4 of them. Like, the guy was a force to be reckoned with, and then he just gave up.
Yeah, like and then he started losing these fights with his chin. Like, people were like, "Oh, you could beat him by knocking him out because he just falls down," and then he just started a strew of losses. Like, it went from being a John Jones like a blueprint to not even at all, like just like a shell of his former self. Like, he totally fell off. Like, it's just crazy. Like, one of the craziest falls. But then Boser, like you could say, like, he was 0-2 going to this, and of course, last 2 fights. But I think he was motivating the fact that he thought he should have won the Latifi fight because he thought that he did enough to win it, and then Latifi basically just laid on him and snuck out that win.
Right.
And he was motivated. Didn't, like we said, didn't train at all, because what's the point of training in the 2 weeks before it? Like, he literally fought that fight a week later and then takes this fight. And he was like, he was there. He didn't even leave Vegas. And he said, I didn't train once. He said he looked fresh in that fight. I'm like, is this the same guy?
That's how bad OSP was. Like, that's how bad it was.
He made Tanner Boser look fresh, and Tanner Boser fought 3 weeks ago. Yeah. He did all 3 rounds in that fight. He looked fresh. Like, he just kept on putting it out. Like put the volume out, which is crazy because he only landed 33 strikes. So it's like, but he was attacking OSP, and OSP just stood there. He just stood there like a deer in the headlights.
He didn't even move. He didn't even try to like roll with the punches or slip outside of range to not take the full. He just stood there straight up and like ate it and was like, "Oh, I'll get you on the next one." What the fuck was that? Like, holy shit. We were talking about how like MMA fighters are not the same as like boxers in terms of their striking IQ and how they roll with, but like, Jesus Christ, man, that was rough for even like the worst striker in MMA. That was like, oh, that was rough.
But this is a good comment. Where people don't like Boser or OSP, they can make 205. This was like OSP usually fights at light heavyweight. He moves back up to heavyweight. This was his second fight at heavyweight, and then maybe he should just go back down, because heavyweight, he's like, that's his second. I think he's 0-2 or 0-3, moving up to heavyweight. He gets knocked out every time. Like, it's
just weird. Do you think if he was a light heavyweight, he'd get more experience, like moving lighter and using a variety of skills, like the ground fighting and the wrestling and the striking, which is still like, when you get below top 15 in the heavyweights, that's still pretty sparse. You got a lot of guys who just rely on punching power. So you'd think he'd do better, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess not.
I know. I don't know, but I mean, this remains to be seen where these two go from here. I know for one thing, I know OSP better go back to light heavyweight. I know that, but like people are gonna hate me for this comment. Like I said last week, like I shitted on Sergey Spivak last week, but this is a situation where I'm like, please give me Tanner Boser against Sergey Spivak. So I said the same thing. I was like, so I can have Tanner Boser just knock out Spivak and then just make me happy. Just make me happy.
Say, he doesn't deserve the 14th spot he has right now. So fuck it.
He doesn't.
Get him out of there.
And Boser thought he should have beat Latifi, and then he goes and beats OSP. Fuck, give him this fight. Let him take it on 2 weeks' notice. Like, tell him right now, you guys are going to fight in a couple weeks.
What's he got to worry about? What's Spivak going to do to him? He couldn't knock out Olenek, like the most knockoutable guy in the division. Couldn't do that. So, like, what are you afraid of?
Oh, my God. And then it'll look good. He doesn't have to train because he said I haven't trained in over a month. So, like, he could pick up another victory and then decide to trade again. So just do me a favor And then he said Spivak versus Boser is a good scrap.
Yeah,
It's a good
like
scrap to watch Boser win.
I know it's really
Yes.
for the 1 or 2 rounds that it lasts, because Boser can actually produce power.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. I think even if he gets that 14 spot, he's going to need to train a lot more to be able to hang in the top 10. He could float around, like bounce around in that 10 to 15 division a little bit, but if he wants to break into the top 10, he's got a lot of work to do. But I think Spivak, he shouldn't even be there anyway. No. Fuck it. Get him out of there and get someone in there who can work. You know?
It's weird because Boser, he does well against some guys. Like, he did pretty well against Ciryl Gane. Like against certain guys, he looks good, and then he makes mistakes in other matchups. Yeah, which is why he's where he's at now. But I feel like this is a good confidence booster that he was able to win this on short notice with no training camp, no nothing, didn't train at all. Use this as like a stepping stone and then just go from there and prove what he needs to fight, because he's to me he's a tricky guy because he has a lot of the tools that he can use, because he's probably the quickest boxer or so in the division. He's probably the quickest. He not power, just
he's
quickest.
Explosive. Like he gets in there fast.
Yeah.
And that's part of where his power comes from is the speed with which he delivers the punches.
And he's starting to use his legs more, which is good. Mm-hmm. Like I like how he's using his legs more. So, and then his cardio is pretty well. Like he has pretty decent cardio. Not great, it's not bad. It's getting better. So he's making an adjustment. So I want to see him like fight somebody in the 10 to 16 range now, and just see how he would fare with that, with who he hasn't fought, Spivak. But that's just me. I
know I'd give him Spivak, and if he does well there, like I'd skip over Tom Aspinall, because I give Tom Aspinall someone like Sakai or Tabura, so he can just get an easy shot within the top 5 range. Because if he beat Tabura, that'd put him at like 8. So then that would make sense to put him against someone like Volkov or Rosenstruck.
I'm surprised they haven't booked him yet. Like
I know, what are they doing? Like what the
fuck? like you got Chris Dawkins. You got Chris Dawkins booked, but then Aspinall is just there, and you have matchups for him now,
right?
Yeah, I have a feeling it's because they want him to fight somebody above him and not below him.
Yeah, which I mean, there's some guys like I don't know. He'd have to wait a little bit for Tabura or Sakai, but they're not booked. I think Bubakar is busy, isn't he?
Yeah.
I know Rosenstruck is booked, but
Rosenstruck's booked against Blades.
Yeah,
of course, Gane and Volkov just fought. Tabora and Sakai are just sitting there. Dawkins, I think, is the one that's fighting Abdur
Bubakov, yeah.
So that leaves Sakai or Tabora. Like I could see you putting up Aspinall and Tabora.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
or him against Sakai. One of those two. Yeah, just make it happen.
I mean, it'd be putting him in spitting range of the top 5, and since everybody else is busy, Volkov has time to recover in that situation. So then, like, all right, well, let's see how he does against Volkov. They're stylistically similar, although Tom Aspinall has the grappling stuff, which that's the thing. Volkov is so fucking big, it's hard to get your grappling going. So I think that would be an interesting matchup, and it'd give him a shot at the top 5. So
but to use you saying Volkov, let's transition from the co-main event to the main event of the evening, which was fun. It wasn't boring like Gane's last fight.
Yeah,
but we had a heavyweight matchup which saw Ciryl Gane defeat Alexander Volkov by unanimous decision. Ciryl Gane moves to 9-0, 5-0 in the UFC, and Volkov falls to 33-9, 7-3 in the UFC. What did you take from this main event?
Yeah, I thought this was actually a pretty good showing for both fighters, mostly because Volkov was more of a problem for Gane than I thought he was going to be. Like, I didn't expect him to eke out a round in the first, and then like the fourth was kind of up in the air. Like, I don't know who got it, But I definitely had this one. Gane taking the second, third, and fifth, no question. Fourth one was a little questionable, but I could still see a 4-1 win or potentially a 3-2. But either way, Gane came out with the victory, no question. This wasn't like he stole it.
No. Like, and then I didn't expect to see Volkov use as many leg kicks that he used. Like usually the leg kicks are like his side thing, but I feel like he was like, okay, these are working. I can use this as a distance thing. And if I'm not getting in close, I can just keep on kicking him, and they're going to be effective. And you could see that there in a second because of the stats right here. But I just felt like I said it before. Ciryl Gane moves like a featherweight. He's quick. He's quick. Like he knows how to get in and out when he needs to. For a guy that didn't have like the reach like Volkov had, like I should say, or the height, he was able to get in with his leg kicks and then get out. But for the first round, it was like every time Gane would go in and hit a leg kick, Volkov would return it back. Mm-hmm. And then they did that for I feel like the first round.
They did that through the whole fight. Yeah. What I thought was interesting about the first round is that Volkov was throwing, and according to the numbers, in the first round, he was actually ahead. I think he outstruck Gane by, hold on, let me give you an exact number. He outstruck Gane by, almost 10 strikes. So he had a pretty decent margin.
All because of the leg kicks.
Yeah, he was throwing those because I think what was happening is Gane was too fast on the hands, and Gane was great about finding that range and just staying there and then shooting in and going back, but he was measuring Volkov's arm range. He wasn't measuring the leg range. So Volkov could still kick him, just couldn't reach him with punches. So he's like, well, fuck, that's all that's working. Kick the leg, fuck it. So he actually outstruck Ciryl Gane, but he was also on his back foot. He was allowing Ciryl Gane to put a ton of pressure on him. But from what I could see, I was like, well, honestly, I think Volkov was actually putting out a decent amount of output. Yeah, he also put out more total strikes, and he landed more. So that's why I gave Volkov the first. Because, even though, I know there was 2 judges that gave Gane all the rounds, and I think it was because he was on his back foot and moving backwards, so it looked like he was on the defensive, even though he was out producing Ciryl in that one.
They even said it in the halfway through the fight. They were like, there was the illusion of Ciryl Gane winning the first round, where half the people had Volkov. I was even one of them at the moment. I felt like Gane had it, and I was always forward by the illusion because of what you saw, because Gane was being more of the aggressor. I said this one thing to a buddy of mine about the fight, and it baffled me. I was like, how can a guy walk for majority of the fight and still control the octagon and be their aggressor when he's walking? Because that's what Gane did. He would walk forward, and then just like Noah said, Gane pressured from his speed. Whenever Volkov came forward, he'd teleport behind Volkov. He'd do that walking. There was really no speed half the time. He'd walk and he'd get it. It kept him against the fence and crowded him to stop the leg kicks, his best weapon. But he would walk, he would kind of circle around. It'd be like this, C. He would circle around, and then just keep getting the center of the octagon, and it would work for him. And, he would come in, his boxing looked sharp, he kept on popping him with the jabs, and then as you can see, even round 3, 4, and 5, Volkov looked like he was beaten up, and then Gane looked like sweating a little bit, but nothing, no scratches, nothing. Yeah, and because the majority of it was the leg kicks, as you see here, 56 leg kicks of the 115 strikes by Volkov, and then it's crazy to look at Gane, and he had 40 leg kicks. Yeah, and then 135 total strikes.
They were
Ciryl Gane, they were both I get the edge to Gane. Gane just has that it's crazy because he's a little bit small, but he just has that complete repertoire with them. He can strike with you with his hands. He can strike with you with his feet. He has great cardio. He has the speed of a featherweight, and then he can take shots. It's what can he do, right? And what are you gonna do with him? Because now he shot up so fast in the division that now he's at the point where you kind of can't deny him a title shot, because it's you keep shooting him up and up and up like you want to, and he just wins these fights like he does. You could say what you want about Rosenstruck. That was a boring fight, but Rosenstruck was passive, and he just Gane did his fight there. That's what he
Yeah.
did.
That's
And then
what
I
he's
think
supposed to do.
yeah, and then he goes into this one, and it gave him a little bit of extra motivation with the critics. Like, oh, his last fight was born. We're
Mhm.
gonna pick against him. What does he do? He like other than the first round, and then maybe like halfway, and then middle of the fourth round, he dominates this. He allowed Volkov to kick him all that much, and then he still kicked back, and he got his striking going. Like Volkov really didn't strike him that much, like with anything big. He was just touching him up here and there, but Gane was getting him with the combinations. He was just picking him apart later on, and then like they said it well. Like he used the wrestling, like he was 0-4 on the takedowns, but he used that to just add like that little bit extra to think about for Volkov. Volkov had to think about it a little bit, so he used that as like a decoy, I guess you would say.
Well, he used it for pressuring him. Because did you notice when he would use it? It was whenever Volkov started putting forward pressure. He wanted to start getting in there, mixing it up. And so what Gane would do is like, no, we're not doing that. So he'd wrestle, pin him up against the cage, and put him right back on the outside ring so he could control center octagon and just keep him on his back foot. It was a very smart way of doing it. And I think this was also just like a not great stylistic matchup for Volkov. Yeah. Because I know Gane is technically he's like a 2-time Muay Thai champ, I believe. Yeah. But he does train out of France. And for those of you who aren't in the know, France has a very unique style of kickboxing called savate. Now, it is its own sport. It is its own league, but it's a very unique style of kickboxing. It's kind of like American kickboxing meets Taekwondo a little bit. Like it's very fluid. There's a lot of like very technical aspects of it that you don't necessarily have in Muay Thai, where it's just two guys just go in there and just fuck each other up until one of them falls. It's more like, you know, you box with the hands and then you box with your feet too. So there's a lot of movement, a lot of finding your angles. And you saw that from Gane. He would use a lot of circling whenever Volkov would put the pressure on. He wouldn't just try to meet him head on or go straight back. He would circle out, find his angles, and that's where he would set up those jabs and those strikes from. And that's why his combinations work so well against a guy who was bigger than him. He couldn't take him down, but he was like, well, I can't use my wrestling for that, but I can use it to keep him on the defensive. And he did a great job with that, especially in the third round. That was his biggest round, like hands down. He started going first. I think he took a lot of Volkov's confidence in the second round, and he just initiated, but he did it the right way. So it looked like he was walking him down, but really every time Volkov would try to start putting, you know, combinations or heavy strikes together, he would just use that circling and those angles to just put him on his back foot and not get him comfortable. Because usually when you're throwing strikes or kicks, you want someone right in front of you. That's the best possible situation because it puts them right in the sweet spot of everything you're going to do. But if you cut an angle, you're like, oh, fuck, now I can only use like half my body realistically. I could throw like an uppercut, maybe like a knee off this lead leg, but it's really awkward and it's uncomfortable. You don't want to. So he just had an awesome game plan and he did really well. I think there were some times when he could have taken the lead a little bit more and maybe finished this fight, because there was a few times Volkov was in trouble. Like as big and fucking tough as a guy as he is, you could tell he was hurt a few times. Like, and I would say in the third, one time in the fifth, and a couple in the second. But I mean, he kept going. The guy's like a freaking moose.
And then this leads into this comment here, which was going to be the next thing I was going to bring up. And the comment was, if Gane fights like he did against Volkov and Rosenstruck, he would be put to sleep against those. That the way he fought against Volkov and Rosenstruck was different, because against Rosenstruck was very passive. So he used that to his advantage, to where he was going in and out, in and out. He didn't have to do too much, and he was winning rounds because Rosenstruck, being the counter artist that he is, which he improved on it in the Sakai fight, like he didn't have to do too much. The IQ of Gane it was up high in that, and he did enough to win each round, because he knew he had to avoid that big strike. Then this one, everybody gave him backlash for it. So what does he do? He picked up the volume. He was getting more aggressive. But you got to give it to Volkov for taking the shots that he did, because at times he took some big shots and then wasn't falling. And then that's what made this fight even better, was the fact that he ate a lot. But but Gane was able to mix up because of the big frame of Volkov. He was mixing the strikes and the kicks, which is why he had 60. Even the body, he had 35 body shots. So it was like a good combination of what he was doing to just wear out Volkov. And then Gane probably has the best cardio in this whole division by far. I might even say he has one of the best cardios in the UFC right now, because this guy doesn't look like he gets tired at all.
For his weight class, he's very spry.
Yeah, and for being a heavyweight, for saying that about a heavyweight, that's even better, because like these guys are known for fucking going balls out, scrapping, and knocking each other out, and he's just. Yeah. He's like a different animal in this crazy heavyweight division. He's like I said, he moves like a feather. He's more like a featherweight with everything. And
it's
then
like him, Tom Aspinall, and Curtis Blades, all very, very light on their feet.
Yeah.
I would even say Stipe in some cases, because he's a wrestler, they have to be light on their feet. So you see some decent footwork out of him. But like, not too many people can move like that in this division.
Yeah. And then the note says Gane versus Lewis should be cakewalk for Gane. Blades was out striking him before the terrible takedown, which he doesn't look at you, which we've talked about that many times, how he shoots in and he just doesn't look. And against most guys, he gets it, but because Lewis was able to time it perfectly.
Yeah, that was a technique, not a strategy. It was blind luck that fucking worked.
Yeah.
Like that's why that happened. But I don't think Gane would be in trouble with Lewis. That's a kind of a weird thing to me, because here's the thing.
I think I could think it'd be the same thing. I think Lewis could knock out Lewis. Knock out Lewis.
That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think Lewis could knock out Gane, but do I think it's going to happen? No, because I think Gane's fighter IQ is a lot more than Curtis Blades is. Plus, he has more to his repertoire than Blades. Blades is known as a takedown guy. He can knock you out, but he goes for the takedowns. With Gane in this fight, he's going to circle around. He's going to make Lewis have to move. He's going to make him have to move. He's going to kick him with the kicks to slow him down a bit, and he's just going to circle around. You might see him try and go for a takedown, but it's going to be a different style than Blades. He's going to look at him. And then he's going to always attack his lead hand, so he can't get that leverage with the shots. He's always going to attack the side where he knows the hand's going to come from. And I feel like he's going to be able to use all that, and he's going to get the volume up. And this is a 5-round fight, so Lewis is going to want to. He's improved his cardio, but he's going to want to finish the third. Yeah. He's going to want to finish this in the first couple of rounds, and Gane knows that. So Gane's like, all you got to do is avoid the first 2 rounds with the big shot. So if I can keep him moving those 2 rounds, and then just avoid that shot, my likelihood of winning it's going to go up dramatically after round 2, and I think that's what's going to happen. It's likely going to be another unanimous decision, because for some reason I don't think he's going to finish Lewis. Lewis is just going to be sluggish. He's going to tire out, and then Gane's just going to use the volume and beat him handily.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just even a bad style matchup, because you got Derek Lewis, who really it's his hands that he's got. Yeah. More than anything, he doesn't really know his way around wrestling. He doesn't have a ground game to speak of. He's got no credentials for either of those things. He's a striker who's picking that up, but he's not even really a kickboxer, because for a lot of his career, he's been a heavier guy who can't throw those kicks beyond like a thigh kick. And even then, he doesn't really utilize that much. He'll throw it, if he's looking like, oh, I'm going to slow him down and stuff, but he's not making anybody switch their stance. You know what I mean? Like, because he doesn't do it hard enough and he doesn't add up enough. Now, I think he definitely thinks about what he's doing, but it's like he's got a very narrow skill set for what he's trying to plan out. It's like the Derek or the Curtis Blades fight, where he was like, oh, when he does this, I'm going to do this. That's a technique, not a plan, right? Like a plan goes, here are the skill sets and strategies that I have, and I'm going to match them against the person I'm fighting, and then I'm going to build a blueprint of how to break them down systematically across 3 rounds, either to finish them or to win by decision. But when you saw the Blades fight, I think Lewis understood, like, dude, I can't keep up with this guy cardio-wise. My best bet is to play the counteroffensive game. Hopefully he'll slip up, give me some openings to land these big shots, or maybe he'll just tire himself out, And then in the third, I can keep up with him because I've tired him out. Now he has to fight at my pace.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably going to try to do the same thing with Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane's got amazing cardio, though. I don't think that plan's going to work. I think Ciryl Gane, also because of that very unique flavor of like Muay Thai / Savate, I don't think he's going to fall for some of the traps that Derek Lewis can lay for him, because he's only really working with boxing. Savate teaches you boxing, but it also teaches you legs and kicks and how dynamic and fluid it is between those two things. And on top of that, he fought in Muay Thai, so he's got fucking power to back it up. He's got a lot of durability. Mind you, he is in the heavyweight, so a lot of these guys, they could snap their fingers and put you out. But I think Ciryl knows that, and he's going to build a game plan around that. And again, Derek Lewis is probably going to be too reserved in the first 2 rounds. And then he's going to be like, fuck, now I'm behind the 8 ball. This guy took the first 2. Now I got to start getting more aggressive. And when he starts getting more aggressive, that's going to give a Ciryl Gane a chance to, 1, counterattack him, but 2, mix in the wrestling. So when he circles out and he's throwing these counterattacks, there's a chance he could be, hey, let's go for a single. Hey, let's take the back, something like that.
One of the best things that he did against Volkov, was his head movements to avoid shots. Yeah. He's able to dip and drop Volkov and avoid those. He's going to be able to do that with Derek Lewis. He got a comment here by Fighters First. People sleep on Derek Lewis's IQ. He adjusted against Blades, waited for the opportunity. If Gane doesn't go to the ground, then he eventually get caught. He could get caught, and no one's
there's always a puncher's chance. Yeah, always a puncher's chance.
No one's attacking Derek Lewis's IQ. I'm just saying that Ciryl Gane's IQ is huge. Like, he knows what he needs to do. He is a smart guy. They wouldn't have been feeding him all these fights and shooting up if they didn't think that he could do this.
I think this is even just a skill set mismatch, because no matter how much IQ you have, if you've only got a few tools to work with and you recognize that the other person has roughly the same, even if it's a little bit lower fight IQ than you have, but they have a vast array of tools to work with, and many of those tools you can't access, you're like, fuck, what do I do? And that's what he did against Blades. He adjusted, but it wasn't like he was like, oh, okay, I've got my fucking strategy out here and he's doing stuff. So now I've got to, he was like, all right, if he tries to shoot for the takedown, hopefully he does it sloppily and I'll throw my uppercut. And it happened to work. And, Blades threw a lot of really, really bad takedown attempts in there, and he caught him. And, nobody talks about the ones where, in the first round when Blades tried to take him down and Lewis countered with, I think it was like a hook, didn't put Curtis Blades out. Nobody talks about that one because they're like, yeah, he just punched him. That's not like a full-blown strategy. That's a technique. Yeah. It's just the uppercut that happened to work. And, there was a series of strikes up until that point. So it kind of added up to the knockout for sure. And, Lewis has got power, but when it comes to all the things Gane can do, there's much of that he can't really stand with unless Ciryl Gane wears himself out. And then now he has to fight at Lewis's pace, which he's got the cardio to last long enough to where that's not really a problem for him. Yeah. Maybe at the tail end of the 5th, but as long as he makes it to the bell, he's probably already up 4 rounds, arguably. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes, he has to avoid that shot. Like, Derek Lewis always has that knockout shot with him. He did that against Volkov. He was losing against Volkov badly, and then he snuck out that victory at the last second with it. So he always has that chance. We know that. I just feel like it's not going to happen against Gane. And then we've been talking about this, and then we failed to mention that on August 7th, they've booked a fight between Ciryl Gane going up against Derek Lewis for the interim heavyweight championship. No one knows what's up with that. All that was said was Francis Ngannou's not going to be ready by August. Mm-hmm. So they're booking this one. So likely, look, I know they said John Jones likely won't fight until 2022. That's been the big word on the street, is he won't be fighting until then. That's when he wants to be ready. And then between not knowing what's up with Stipe and then with Francis Ngannou not being ready, this is one of the situations where I said that they just made a decision like this to kind of clear up a logjam a little bit, because you can kind of make it a little bit easier, because you have one of these guys win. Likely you can book a fight in November afterwards, because everybody's been taking fights on 2-3 months notice, let alone 2-3 weeks if you're Tanner Boser.
Right.
And taking fights sooner so you could get that out. So then the winner of this would fight Ngannou, and then that would happen, and then it would clear out another logjam. So then by the end of the year, it just leaves one of these three guys as a champion, and then John Jones likely next.
I mean, we'll see, because that's the other thing I hear is like Ngannou has really, really got his heart set on the John Jones fight.
Yeah.
Like he's even calling him out on Twitter, like, come on, let's do this, which I think is probably why they're back burnering the Stipe and Ngannou trilogy. Trilogy at this point. So, I mean, it's like, I feel like this is also partially a situation of Dana White's own making, because Derek Lewis refuses to fight down because he's been told too many times, all right, just one more fight, you get your title fight. Oh, just one more fight. So he's like, fuck you, I'm not fighting down again. I want my title fight now. Like I took out Curtis Blades. I want my title shot. And I feel like Stipe, one, he doesn't fight that often as it was. Like even when he had the belt, he wasn't super active, like a fight a year more or less.
He like fights every 6 months to a year because he's a firefighter. So he says,
he's got
I'm doing that and then doing this. I wouldn't say doing this secondary, but he was like I got my priorities. That's this. Like I do this. I'll fight once a year. So if you align this perfectly, since he fought, by the time the 1 year gets to it, likelihood is John Jones will have just fought whoever's champion at that time. If you go by this timeline that I said, and it'll be perfect in line for him to get a title shot, because then he would have waited a couple title shots, and then he would be right there, still at the number 1 or 2 spot. So
now, I mean, it's either going to be. I think no matter what, how it shakes down, he's going to get a title shot. Either it's going to be the winner of Ngannou Jones, or it's going to be this interim winner. So, like, I think it's probably going to be one of those, because at least this way, technically, Derek Lewis gets his title shot, right? And if he wins that one, then he's got a right to potentially skip over Stipe and be like, no, fuck you. I want to go for the real belt. I want to fight Ngannou for it. And he'll have some sort of basis for it because he's got the interim belt, and that's just a logical progression.
At that point, Ngannou can't be like, okay, he's not worthy because.
I got a belt too, motherfucker.
I'm interim title belt. Like I got the belt right here. It looks just like yours. It's just the interim, Right, so it gives him a little bit of now you kind of have to fight me now, because you can't be going the situation. I don't want to go too much into wrestling, but you're not gonna have like a Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, who's the real champion, until they actually fight each other. So you gotta get that going. And then have that happen. But this at least creates some sort of light at the end of the tunnel with the logjam, where you can get a little bit of clearance from it. So he did help create it, but I guess this is Dana White's way of trying to
fix it now.
Trying to fix it now. Like he's making a statement, and not a lot of people are happy with it. But it's like, if you want Ngannou to fight and he wanted to do it, why isn't he fighting then? They wanted him to fight Lewis, but for some reason it's not happening. So now they're like, the next thing to go is Lewis deserves to be in this fight because it was supposed to be him against Ngannou. Ngannou's obviously not ready, so you put the next man up. Man up, Ciryl Gane. Like, he just won, and he's okay with going into the fight on a month and a half notice. So.
Right. Because, I mean, it's like in that top 3, you've got Ngannou, who refuses to fight like anybody at this point. You got Stipe, who's like taking a break, so he's not going to be in the picture for a while. Lewis refuses to fight down. He don't want to fight anybody.
And John Jones isn't going to fight until
John Jones. So you get to Ciryl Gane, and you're like, what do you make him fight down again? Like, how many times this motherfucker got to fight down and retain that 3 spot that he took from Rosenstruck?
He fought in February. Now here he is. He just fought in June. Right. End of February, end of June, and now he's fighting the beginning of August. That's 3 times he's going to fight in 2021, where I think Stipe fought once, but he fights once a year. You got John Jones, who's been a heavyweight for over a year and still hasn't made his heavyweight debut. You got Francis Ngannou, who fought in I think it was he's the one who fought Stipe, and then the time before that, I think it was like 6 months or so. Yeah. Although when he fought Daniel Cormier, Cormier.
That was a 2020 fight. Yeah, that was a 2020 fight.
Yeah. So, like, I forget who he fought in between that, but then it's like, this guy is just coming out. Him and Volkov, they're trying to fight as much as possible.
Right.
They're coming in, but Gane's like, this is my third time fighting. How do I not deserve this? Like, I just keep moving up. So
I mean, it's either this fight happens for the interim belt, or he has to fight Curtis Blades, because that's the only dude who he hasn't beat in the top 5.
And
Took
Blades
it from
is fighting,
Rosenstruck, beat Volkov. Blades is already booked, which why should he have to fight down? That doesn't make sense. It's the only thing that makes sense for him.
He's fighting Rosenstruck, but he's fighting the logjam is the reason he's fighting down. So that'll help out the winner of that fight is the logjam starting to maybe the loser of this fights the winner of that, but then it's like
how long can you keep that going, before nobody wants to fight anybody. Because fuck, the top 7 are logjam now.
Oh my god! But it is what it is now. Like they're trying to make this shit happen, and then by that time, hopefully Chris Darkus and Tom Aspinall will be added to the logjam. So
they'll be all out of shape and shit. They'll have like a beer gut because they've been so fucking. We've been waiting 3 years for a title shot.
We've been waiting. The champ has finally fought. It's 2 years into the heavyweight division, and John Jones is finally making his debut.
Tom Aspinall shows up in the UFC. He was like 28. By the time he gets a fight, he's like 32. It's like, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah, Jesus. And then I know that's the end of that. But before we get going, as you see here, we got the thing Fighters First. It's a new clothing company and MMA website. As you see here, I'm wearing one of the shirts. Fighters First. You can check them out on fightersfirst.shop. Go there. You can check out on Wednesday. You can start checking out Cage My IQ on there. You got Art of MMA. There's a couple of other podcasts in the work on there. Plus, you got all the shirts, the Fighters First shirts, and then we're going to be designing a new logo for Cage My IQ, and then we'll be coming out with some merch for it. So keep a lookout for that on fightersfirst.shop, and just check out all the stuff on there. MMA's your stuff. You want to go to fightersfirst.shop. Check it all out. Get a couple shirts. Great logos, great designs, just great in general. So go to that. To put it on your favorites list. Do it. It's check it out now. The site's live now. So check it all out now, and then do all that, and then let you know a little bit more about that later on the week. But definitely check this out. I love my shirt that I have on right now. I wear it all the time. I got a couple other ones. They got a couple cool legendary ones. They got a Royce Gracie one. They got of course, Bruce. You got Bruce Lee, and then they got a Kevin Randleman one. So check those out, and then I think they're coming out with another one. So definitely check out all that. And then, as always, before we get going, this is Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, if you like MMA, check out our preview and recap videos, as well as the interviews that we have out. We got over 25 interviews now on the content. So check it all out. Comment on all our videos. Let us know what you think. And then before we get going, do you have anything you want to say?
Not too much. Good wrap up. What are we doing next week? Are we taking the week off?
We are taking
week. Okay.
Yeah, we're taking the week off because, as you know, there's nothing going on next week because the Sunday is 4th of July. Yeah. So it'll be one of our nice weeks off. So
relax.
To relax. We won't be doing anything for the weekend, since there won't be anything to recap. And then the next time you see us, we're going to be talking UFC 264, the aftermath of Dustin Poirier going up against Conor McGregor, the trilogy. So
it's going to be good. But we're going to have to double up on Ultimate Fighter episodes now because we're skipping a week. So it's like, fuck. But that's all right. Yeah, I'm sure the next few are going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to the Brian Battle fight, and then whichever matchup we get after that. But no, it should be a good season, and we got some fun stuff coming with these fights, man. Like we got, what is it, Conor McGregor, and then who's up after that? feel like there was a good fight coming after that. Hold on.
That whole card is nice.
We got some fight nights though after that look good. Like, hold on, I got it right here. We've got that's right, it's Makhachev fighting again. We got Makhachev again, baby Khabib.
Did they make that a main event?
Yeah, it's a main event. It's Makhachev and Moises, so that's gonna be dope. We got Misha Tate coming back. Hell yeah!
You remember when we talked about that fight where we were like, "Damn, why is he fighting back?" And
now, that's stupid. But
the fight's a main event, so it's like, oh, what happened? But then I just remembered that I think that was supposed to be the Max Holloway fight against Rodriguez, so it got pushed up. So womp. But then you got the Sanhagen Dillashaw.
I'm stoked for that. I want to see Dillashaw get his ass handed to him. Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
And then you got Hall, Strickland, and then you got 265, then Cannonier Gastelum, and then 266. So we got to end out the summer. And then they just one note to make before we get going. They have moved the Glover Teixeira fight against Jankovic. It is not Labor Day weekend now. Something happened, but they moved it from September, I think it was 8th, September 8th to now it's October 30th now. And it's going to be at Fight Island. So it's going to be on Abu Dhabi and Fight Island. So it looks like they're going back to Fight Island. So
that's interesting.
There must be an injury or something if they're
weren't they also going to put Volkov and Ortega on that card?
No, that's going to be end of September.
Could have sworn they were supposed to be like a co-main event on one of these big pay-per-view cards. I cannot for the life of me remember which one, but it's interesting because I wonder if that's going to set the whole thing back.
Yeah.
That would suck, man. I'm excited to see that fight.
And then but that one's going to be the Ortega Volkanovski is going to be end of September because they're moving things around because it was supposed to be Santos and Johnny Walker was the end of September. They moved that to the main event of the first week of October on a fight night, and then they made that way Volkanovski and Ortega will be a main event on pay-per-view. So they've done a little bit of movement there. Ahead of time. So to me, I think there was some sort of injury which has forced them to do it because why would they move it from that slot month and a half later? But for you guys that don't know, they, like I said, Teixeira and Jankovic, that light heavyweight title fight will be now October 30th in Abu Dhabi. So which is great. I always looking forward to their fights in Fight Island. So check that out. And then one thing I forgot to mention is don't forget to subscribe to Fighters First YouTube channel. Just Fighters First, like it is right there with the logo right there. Don't forget to subscribe so you can check out future episodes of Cage My IQ, Art of MMA, and then we got a wrestling show in the works. I think they have a kickboxing show in the works and then another show. Which just trying to get more stuff added to it. So check it all out, but subscribe to Fighters First. Like I said, the logo that you saw there, don't forget to do it. Help us get that YouTube to 1,000 subscribers to get to that point. Like I said, the goal is combat sports at Fighters First. So subscribe to that. Go to fightersfirst.shop, buy a shirt, and then just enjoy the MMA content that's put out because that's why we do this. We do that for you guys so you guys don't miss any of the action. But as always, I'm your host, D-Bake. This is my co-host, Miles Long. And you guys have a wonderful 4th of July, and we will talk to you guys in 2 weeks.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye. Still on.
Thank you for watching this episode of Cage My IQ on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. and also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.